Today I'm going to be doing a tiny landscape painting on a 2-inch canvas. This is going to be one of the tiniest paintings I've ever done. I recently followed a Bob Ross tutorial on a 2x2-inch canvas and it came out great, so I wanted to do a little original. This one's going to be Northern Lights. If you ever painted like Bob Ross before, you know he is an expert in the wet on wet technique, and that's one of my favorite ways to paint, so that's what I'll be doing today. I'll have all the colors and utensils you need in the description. You're going to want to start off with your canvas primed. I used a liquid clear, but a small amount of paint thinner would also work. You can really lay down the colors that you want for your Northern Lights. I chose to do a pink hue today with a little bit of a violet at the top of the canvas. I'm adding just a little bit more violet just to add a more of a nighttime look to this Northern Light scenery. Now I'm going to use a clean dry brush just to blend the color into the canvas. It kind of blended a little bit too much for me, so I'm adding some more of that violet hue to the top, just making the color a little bit more vibrant. Now this is when the magic happens. You want to load up your fan brush and tap in the shape of the Northern Lights. I had to add a little bit of paint thinner onto my brush, and I needed more paint just because the paint needs to be thinner when you apply it to a canvas with so much paint already on it. So just tap in, and once you tap in the shapes, you're going to want to pull those lines straight up. Reapplying paint in between, and just like that you have a beautiful little Northern Lights sky. Now I'm going to do some mountains. I'm going to use that violet color. I have a little bit of black and just put in the silhouette of the mountains. The least amount of paint, the better, because we're going to apply some thick layers of paint on top. Now you're going to want to use your palette knife, flatten out some titanium white with a little bit of violet color, and just start applying this white paint to your canvas. You want to work at an angle, so if you could see, I'm pulling it at a sideways angle, and that's going to make it look like a mountain. So make sure you're just pulling it sideways. I like to first create a line to kind of enclose where I'm going to make my mountain, and then I'll do the middle. And I'm just scraping paint off my palette in between because you're going to need a good amount of paint. And then I'm going to do the last one here. And just enclose it. To do the shadow of the mountain, you're just going to apply a little bit more of the violet color to that titanium white and grab just a little chunk, and you're just going to pull in the opposite direction. Since this is such a tiny canvas, you could see I'm only using the edge of the palette knife. And no worries if you kind of break through the edges. We can use a liner brush to enclose it and kind of erase what little mistakes you think you've made, because in this world, you know, there's no mistakes. We can always fix it. Took me a while to learn that. Oil paint is so forgiving. It takes so long to dry, and that's one of the pluses of using it. You can always fix it. I added a little bit more titanium white because I want to define this mountain. Now I just grabbed some more shadow color to make the shadow side of this mountain a little bit more defined. And I just want to show you I'm pretty happy with this little mini mountain. but the tippity top is a little bit crooked. So I'm going to go in with my liner brush to find the top of this mountain and pulling at the same angles that I did with my palette knife. It's a little bit easier with the liner brush to make sure you're kind of coloring in your lines here. And I'm going to use a clean dry brush now to just tap out the bottom of this mountain. This will create a mist and make it look like it's in a distance, especially once we add some little trees and stuff to the forefront. Now grab your liner brush, fill it up with a dark color, doesn't really matter. I use some violet, some black, and I'm just tapping in some bush shapes. You don't want to cover up all that mist. You want that mist to work for you and create some distance. Now that we laid in all those bushes, we're going to put in some water. This is personal preference as well. I'm making it pink, kind of violet hue that I mixed with some colors to make my little lake here. But you can make yours blue. It's your little world. Now we have to create some water lines. So load your brush up with some titanium white and just add some lines straight in the middle of the water. Now we're ready to add some color to these bushes. I'm going to use yellow and orange, but feel free to use any color you like. Green would also work. Even, I've done pink bushes before. Maybe they're roses in the distance. But today I'm sticking with some yellow and orange. And I'm just tapping in right over the shadow. And I'm just creating little bush shapes. If your paint isn't applying well, just add a little bit of paint thinner. I want there to be a little bit of land in the forefront where I'm going to add some little trees at the end. So I'm just using the same dark color and tapping in some little bushes. I want these bushes to be yellow, so I'm going to just tap in right over, try to leave, as you tap down, try to leave a little bit of black at the bottom. Now we're about ready to add some trees. So I loaded up my liner brush with a brown color and a little bit of paint thinner. And I'm just adding a couple lines here. There's a lot of white paint for this mountain, so you are going to have to go through that. I'm going to use my palette knife again. This is going to really define these trees and give it some texture. So I'm just tapping in at the edge. And when I did that, I kind of pushed some of that white paint to this tree. So I'm using a liner brush just to blend that in. And I wanted the tree to be a little dark. So I got some pure black and I'm just adding that to the shadow. And as you may see now, in between these two trees is a little bit of yellow. I did not mean to do that. But no worries, this is oil paint. It's not going to dry in 10 minutes, so we'll be able to just use another clean brush to just wipe that into oblivion. No one will ever know. And you see how I'm creating that branch kind of texture, just pulling it to the end of it, pulling it to the end of the tree. And I forgot to do this earlier, but we need a water line on the bottom of these bushes. That way you can tell that this is a lake. It's not just a pink ground. This is water. So I'm just I had to put a lot of paint thinner. I'm just taking a small brush and wiping away that yellow. Lastly, I noticed that this little mountain didn't have a defined edge. So I got some more titanium white and defined it. And here we are. Hope you enjoyed painting with me. I'll see you next time.